Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is the Piracy Show. Now I'm kind of trying something different with the mic right now, so hopefully this works out and still produces acceptable audio levels. I fully acknowledge these problems, and these are a question of personal skill and personal development. I didn't I didn't go out and buy the full standard issue Twitch streamer boom mic and all the stuff, the audio mixing board and all that crap. I do this very much just with what I got, and because I've never tried to be a professional with it. I just do this to express my own opinion on things and just to have some fun, and also just because I always wanted updates on when ship stuff was happening, and so I decided, well, I'll just do it myself. But anyways, hopefully this works out. Hopefully this is better for you guys. Once again, let me know in the comments below. But we are going to move along with the Piracy Show, and we are going to start digging into your guys' comments on the videos, answering some of those comments, and then hopefully kind of, me venturing my opinions and discussing what I think is good, what I think is bad. And of course, there were a number of comments about the audio quality. So as I have given that explanation up front, we're going to kind of take that as writ, and we're going to kind of move along beyond that. But yes, no, I totally read your comments, especially Unleashed ESX, James Allen. I saw what you guys were talking about with the audio, and honestly, don't be afraid to say shit like that on my channel. Don't be afraid to make comments like that, or just say, oh, I hope I'm not hurting your feelings or anything like that. No, it's good to know these things up front. I'm not thin-skinned, and I can be like, oh well, we'll see about that when I see you in the PU. That's not gonna happen. Don't worry. So anyways, let's move on. Let's get the show started. First comment, Panzer 110. Seems like the Hurricane is not as popular as CIG had hoped. Most reviews are not overly positive. Now, I'm going to discuss my own personal opinion on it. Now, the idea of a high damage ship with cost is an okay idea. Foundationally, it's a great concept. It's a good idea. The problem is the execution is middling. And one of the best examples I can find to kind of show this is let's hop from this universe over to another universe, and I'll explain it there. Now, World of Warcraft, Legion, obviously, Fury Warrior. Now, Fury Warriors are designed to deliver a large amount of damage, but at the same time, they also take an extra amount of damage that other players in combat don't take. Generally, whenever they enrage, which is pretty much almost always, they take an extra 30% damage. Now, in the Legion Alpha, it was known that there was a certain survivability issue with Fury Warriors because they were just taking too much damage. And so that was impacting the day in, day out, life of a player, of a Fury Warrior in the game. And so this was something that was acknowledged by Blizzard in the Alpha, and yet not fixed. This was acknowledged by Blizzard in the beta, and yet not fixed. This went all the way to live, and then about 3 months into live before they ever really kind of stepped up and said, well, you know what, you guys might be right about that. We're going to put a fix in. We're going to create a talent, so instead of taking 30%, you take 15% extra damage, and things kind of evened out. But the reasoning behind it was they were kind of afraid of what the very high end of the community would be able to achieve with this, with the right gear, with the right tools, and the right, basically mathematically designed character setup with gear, talents, and all that, that certain people in the high-end community on certain fight encounters would be able to just dominate with a Fury Warrior, and thus maybe negate a mechanic or finish a boss a lot easier than they would have intended. And they were afraid of things like that, so they kind of put these breaks in on this thing to slow it down and to make sure it didn't get out of hand. But really all it did is you impacted an entire group of players because you were afraid of what maybe one little proportion of the high-end community was going to be doing with it, so you kind of knocked the whole thing down. And that's what I see very much with the Hurricane, is it's sort of like, oh, we want to put all this firepower on a ship, but then we're going to kind of chop it up a little bit in the pilot's hands, the rest in the gunner's hands, and the ship isn't really all that great. It's not all that survivable. It's kind of like we kind of see the need for a tool like this in the PU, but we're afraid of it. So we're kind of half-assing it a little bit, and we're being very upfront about that and saying that the ship has so many costs. And so when I look at it and I see these comments, well, the pilot's managing all this stuff, then why does the pilot even have 2 guns under his control? If he's so busy managing all this stuff, then why does he even have those 2 guns? Why not put all 6 on the turret? Well, because we're afraid it might be a little too overpowered. Then why are we making the ship in the first place, And there's always going to be like, the argument, well, they can just make ships because that's different people that they don't have to worry about. That's just people designing the ship. That's not the people who are actually building the game. But then there's also the other side of that argument, which is, well, then that salary that you paid the guy to design the ship to dress it up, to make it look good so that you could go out and sell it, that salary could have gone to another QA tester or, someone else to kind of help smash out these bugs and get this game up and running in proper fashion. So if you're gonna put out a high damage fighter, do it. Commit to it and do it. Don't make it such a middling concept that really, you look at and you go, well, I can kind of see it, but it's just, I can see why they priced it the way they did because of the firepower that it has. But realistically, I mean, it could have been 6 size 2s all on the nose, and I would have been a lot more interested in it. A lot more. If it had been built out like with all the guns arranged like an F-86 Sabre, I would have been very interested in this ship, especially if it had been priced down more reasonably as well to go along with those smaller guns. That would be a much more interesting ship to me. The ship as it is right now, it just, to me, it doesn't, it just doesn't serve a purpose. I understand that some people, for, playing with your wife or, playing around with your friends, this might be something that you're interested in. But at the same time, for me, for how I play, and once again, my opinion, this ship just doesn't do it for me at all. I look at it and I go, really? $175 for that? It's kind of like the Hornet Wildfire, it's just like, I think you're kind of charging a little much for that. I think we could possibly do a little better. So, yeah. That's kind of why I think it's not as popular as other ships have been. A little bit too high in price and a little bit too, weak sauce in execution. Okay, next, Riot King. What's the difference between the regular Hornet and the Wildfire? More armor or some bull like that? Yeah, we just did the Wildfire. Yeah, like I don't see it because it's called the F7C Wildfire. So it's got some different weapons, it's got a paint job, and it's got a bolt turret. So fucking what? Most of us are going to be doing custom paint jobs once we're able to do that in the game anyway. The bolt turret is something that we're supposed to be able to buy in universe for UEC. Why? Why? Once again, time that could have probably been spent on something else. I mean, really, if there is like some glaring difference between the F7C Wildfire and the F7C that would justify $65 extra beyond a turret that you can already or should already be able to buy in game, but hopefully soon with item 2.0, blah blah blah. Hopefully we'll see that, but I just don't see the point of its existence. Would I buy a Wildfire? No. I have a Super Hornet. I don't need it. I mean, I got a Super Hornet for $165. That's more ship than the Wildfire is for $175. Yeah. Wildfire. I don't see the point. Money. All right, Zen Air Zulu. Why make a junk ship? A heavy fighter would have weaknesses, sure, but not junk. Yeah. If you're gonna do it, commit to it. Do it awesome. Do it right. Do I agree with sort of like speed but low maneuverability? Yes, absolutely, 100% solid concept. Concept. That's something that works very well in games like War Thunder and whatnot. High damage ships or high damage fighters in this case, that sort of like a P-38 or a BF-110, that are very good on speed, very good on grabbing altitude, but then they really have to be conscious of how they engage, the angle that they're going to take in. Could they be countered by somebody on their way in? How are they going to make their escape? All these things, and this is like a very layered and a very good type of gameplay to have in the game. Even though in 6 Degrees of Freedom this changes, and some of these dynamics might change, but that's something worth exploring. And I think that's something worth keeping in the game, and what I originally hoped that the Vanguard would be. But unfortunately, yeah, it seems like they kind of came up with the idea, but then they were like, what if it's too good? Well, it's okay. We'll split the firepower and we'll kind of cut the legs out from under it before they even get to play it. So if it's that way, we don't have to worry about it being too good in the beginning, and if it's shitty, then we can always buff it later. And in the meantime, the players, the community, is meant to gamble, to roll the dice on the ship, and that's something that I kind of don't agree with. So yeah, if had it been just a piloted ship, one person with say 6 size 2s in the nose, I would have been all aboard. $125, yeah, I would have been all aboard. I would have been like, yeah, I think it's a great ship. But yeah, the way it is now, nah, I don't see the point. All right, Jeremy Blakane. Sorry if I mispronounced that. See, as I know the guy who asked about the role of this ship, he was mainly concerned with the Gladius. Why have a Gladius now when you can have the same ship with bigger guns and room for 2? His angle was that the Glad is now pointless. Also, your audio is kind of buggy this time. Cheers. Yes, audio. Well, we'll take that as writ. Now, the Gladius, what's the point of having the Gladius comes in at a much cheaper price point. But when you're looking at the Gladius now, I think the ship that kind of competes with the Gladius right now would be the Buccaneer. Once we see what the Buccaneer is all about in the PU, I think the Buccaneer and the Gladius are going to be they're going to be direct competitors in that tier, or in that price range, because the way Star Citizen is arranging outwards is in terms of price, because once you get into the PU and you're earning UEC, you're going to be looking at different ways to progress through different ships to get further, to give yourself more capabilities, to take on tougher enemies, bring in bigger bounties, blah 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 blah. And so you're going to be instead of say like leveling like a World of Warcraft example, you're going to be leveling in terms of ships. You're going to be moving up to bigger and better ships, and buying the biggest baddest ship is kind of one way of skipping that whole process. What's the role of the Gladius? I really don't know anymore. Had the Gladius had all 3 guns arranged in a tight configuration, or if the Gladius had a definite role where it was just openly like, let's say the Buccaneer is super fast, but the Gladius can deke and dodge all over the place. It's just super awesome that way, and it's got this really thin profile, so it's really hard to hit. Something like that I could definitely see, but the way the ships are moving now, much slower, and it just feels like the Gladius just kind of got the short end of the stick in the way the game's evolving. So I'm not really too sure what the future of the Gladius might hold. I hope they do revisit that ship, because it was a ship in the early days that I was enthusiastic about. It was a ship that I owned at one point, but it's just I like the speed, I like the maneuverability, but in the end the firepower was so middling that I just kind of felt like it didn't really seem to have the teeth to chew its steak. It just it felt underpowered and kind of like something that looks really good in a brochure, but something that doesn't really that doesn't really meet its expectations. Now, in terms of getting rid of a Gladius to move up to a Hurricane, no. No. If you're gonna go up from a Gladius, I would say buy an F7C Hornet. Solid foundation to build from. You can still buy the ball turret in universe. You can buy the chin turret. You can buy all these things. You can buy them for UEC, not for real dollars. So, or the ball turret's gonna come later on down the line. Obviously, I think they're kind of holding that back because they can bring out ships with the ball turret and charge more for them, but I would, yeah, if you own a Gladius and you're wondering what should I keep this ship, my personal opinion, my personal view, if I was in your position, is I would take that Gladius, especially if it's an LTI, and I would just knock it up to a Hornet, an F7C Hornet. In the end, that's probably going to be just like the standard issue rifle of the universe, so to speak. So I honestly, I can't see how you can go wrong with a Hornet with all the options. I would just take that ship and make it a Hornet. Okay, Marconi 333. I bought the Terrapin and the Hurricane package and upgraded the Hurricane to a Redeemer with LTI. Solid move. Solid move. I can't fault you on that at all. Redeemer is going to be a solid ship in the PU. I mean, all that firepower on gimbals and bottom and top turret. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with that ship. That is possibly like between that ship and the Hurricane. Like, there's still the Hurricane or the Hurricane. The Vanguard Sentinel. I'm talking about the Vanguard. The Vanguard, overall, I feel was a complete kind of, it just ended up being a dud. But I still think there's hope with the Sentinel for the Vanguard being a good ship because E-War, recently they had a dev town hall and they were talking about beyond visual range engagements. And I think that the Vanguard Sentinel is going to play a role in sort of the E-War and the denial of information. So I think that the Sentinel is going to be a good Vanguard, but apart from that, if the Redeemer in that price range is, I think, one of the most solid ships. Cargo, the ability to drop off Marines, all these turrets bristling with guns and missiles. Some people trip up over the looks of it, but appearance means nothing to me so long as functionality is there, and the Redeemer's got functionality in spades. And it's one of these ships that, on a personal level, I think that when I look at all these ships that are making it into the PU, and I look at the Redeemer, which still has not, and now that Paul DeLacy has left CIG, when is that going to happen? I'm mystified as to why the Redeemer is not in game yet, because the Redeemer is an amazing ship. So, yeah, but upgrading from a Hurricane to a Redeemer, solid move. Solid move, dude. All right, next comment. David Bland. I don't think so, dude. I'm sure you're very spicy and exciting. I can imagine a squadron of these swooping in. I guess he's referring, Hurricane. Swooping in quickly and taking out ships that are guarding an asset that have more armor and shield and have more maneuverability but less powerful weapons. So a ship like a Corvette can take out the asset. Also, I don't think there will be a 2.7. I think the rumor got started because someone accidentally said 2.7 instead of 3.0, and everyone gets tongue-tied now and then. Don't I know it? So yeah, these ships moving in, fast strikes, hard hitting. I could definitely see that with these ships, but I could see it much more so if, once again, all that firepower were in the hands of one person, instead of split between two. I think it's the way it is right now, the way it's built is it's a little bit cumbersome and uncomfortable looking to manage all that firepower. But yeah, as a fast strike weapon, I think that's definitely what they were aiming for. It's just when they split that firepower, 2 guns to the pilot, 4 guns to the turret gunner, they were just kind of like took the legs out from under it. Now, sure, of course, you can remotely control the turret with, the added option of a server blade or whatever put into the ship or into the avionics pod to allow you to control those guns. But then we're also talking about, the pilot's got his hands full, having to manage all these systems and fly the ship. So, that's kind of where I trip up. But I like the basic idea of what they're trying to say with this ship. It's just I don't think the execution was all that great. 2.7, yeah. I don't know. It's just a lot of things hang on 3.0, right? And I think that they're going to try and squeeze some things in before that. It just because to me 3.0 looks so distant. And I know that's not what people want to hear. And you know, going back to October, I was saying, yeah, I don't know if 3.0 is going to make it out in 2016, guys. And some people were, you know, unhappy with those comments. But, you know, and it's not to toot my own horn. It's just to say that I think it's going to take a lot of work to get that done. And if they said June, I wouldn't be surprised. If they said August, I'd be like, yeah, probably. I think that it's going to be a while yet. Now, as for you know, bait and switch and all these things, that's for other people to discuss. I personally, I'm more interested in the progress of the game in and of itself and things being done correctly than I am worried about timeline. Beyond the fact that obviously this impacts the game when you know there's constant delays, rumors get started, and in general, the community just gets a little bit aggravated and enervated when these things persist for a long period of time and they're not acknowledged. So, but beyond that, nah. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see a patch before we get 3.0. There's probably going to be something bringing in a few other little ships to just kind of wet the whistle before we get 3.0, which I think is still a ways off. All right, Foul Play, awesome name. This actually looks more like what the Vanguard was meant to be, Deep Space Fighter. This has the looks and the heft of an F-14D ST. Not familiar with that model. I mean, I believe you're referring to the Tomcat, correct? Not familiar with that model. I feel that the Vanguard is more of a quick support gunship. Yeah, so... Yeah, it definitely feels... I think I was talking about that when I was talking about the ARC 170. I felt that that's what the Vanguard should have been. And then instead, the Vanguard kind of got... what would be the word? It kind of got conscripted into being a troop carrier, which to me didn't make sense because you already had a troop carrier in the Cutlass, you already had a troop carrier in the Redeemer, but I guess we needed just one more, and so yeah, the Vanguard I think is just going to be one of Star Citizen's victims in history so much that. It was a good idea. A twin-engine long-range fighter was a great idea, and it's what the community voted on. And then we got a long-range deep space heavy fighter that I guess the heavy part referred to its weight because it definitely didn't refer to its firepower. If they upgraded the mass, once again, sorry, this is Foul Play. If they upgraded the mass of 2,000 kilograms in armor, but put it on top and front, making it the back weaker, and the turret would make sense as a defensive barrier for the weakest or for the weakened back. Yeah, but I think that trying to kind of put some tankiness into the ship kind of moves it away from what it's supposed to be. I mean, if it had been a slow and unmaneuverable, like an ungainly ship, but with a lot of firepower, but all focused in one direction, so people could still outmaneuver it, and there was still some give and take to be had with this ship. Then yeah, I would be okay with that concept as well. But I think adding armor to it just further defeats and dilutes what it was originally meant to be and what it doesn't really seem to be at this stage. All right, now let's do the questions and the comments from, part 2 of ship updates. And now that I'm looking at this, I'm realizing I didn't even render this in HD. God, I must have been well, I did record this like 5:30 in the morning on Saturday. So yeah, sorry, I apologize for the quality of those two videos. It sucks. All right, Carl King, I bought one. I'ma kill you all. Have fun. Good luck. Okay then. All right, the Canadian Will. All right. Yes, turrets are shit, but they also have to be very careful when optimizing them. Agreed, 100%, because you don't want to have it to the point where big ships are just mowing down little ships. And that's one of the things that I've been like long-term concerned about, is that as this game evolves and as we move forward, it's starting to look like fighters are less and less the place that you want to be and more a place that you want to put your NPCs in. All right, moving on. They have to be very careful when optimizing them, make them too effective, and any turreted ship will feel OP. Yep. Make them too crappy, and no one will bother putting a player in them. Once again, agreed. Also, I can see Capitals having a different type of optimized turret system, because I can't see Capital being effective at using anti-fighter turrets with no agility fighters. It would basically, or am I misreading this, or am I just like having a moment here? I can't see a Capital being effective at using anti-fighter turrets with no agility. Fighters could basically stay behind a ship in a blind spot and just strafe as the ship tries to turn. Towards that, I think that as the turrets evolve, I think that they're probably going to have to move away from direct fire sort of gun turrets that they have now, and they're going to have to move more to like a flak turret idea, something that more or less has an AoE effect, but it's a very small effect, but at the same time an effect that builds up over time. So that's something that, let's say if a fighter is overly exposed to that type of fire for too long, it will eventually overpower the shields, and then the damage will become catastrophic. But I think it's going to move more towards flak turrets. I think that would have been a better starting point, something that allows fighters to dip in and dip out, but at the same time it allows, you know, the larger, heavier ships to kind of keep pushing the fighters away, and makes it a little bit more even, something that's more designed around, you know, putting up these walls of flak rather than just something that's, you know, a direct pinpoint weapon, because that's going to be always something that's going to be extremely difficult to balance. So, agreed. All right, Commander Hawk 22. I bought a CCU token for this from one of my sabers. I'm going to see how this thing is when it becomes flyable for a free fly weekend before I make my choice. Solid move. Solid move. I would not, at this point, I would not throw away a saber to see what the ship is, but holding on to a CCU token is a good idea. I have buckets of them on my account for everything from the Super Hornet to a Freelancer Mist to all kinds of shit. Just waiting to see how things pan out as the game gets balanced further on down the road. All right, thread 64. If we are looking at two exhaust ducts, where is the single TR2 engine located? Good question. I mean, with the turret right there in the middle, is it more forward? Is it further in the back? Kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. Check the Gladius configuration with 2 TR2. Also, the Wildfire shows 1 TR3 engine, and that's a very recent release. I don't see them sticking with 1 TR2. I think this thing will have 2 TR2 like it is shown. Yeah, probably, just for simplicity's sake. I don't know what was the idea behind 1 engine, 2 exhaust ports, really. I think that sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing in terms of the way these ships kind of come to life. All right, Nacho Libre, I like your channel, but respectfully disagree. Please do so whenever you feel you need to. Because once again, this channel is basically my opinion. I don't present myself as the sole adjudicator of fact in this universe. So yeah, feel free to disagree, because everybody's opinion is different, and sometimes you can find things that you never knew were there, or things that you didn't see just by looking and seeing what other people think of the same stuff. The Hurricane is going to be an amazing heavy fighter. The key will be to have a turret gunner. However, no other fighter will be able to put more time and firepower on a target than the Hurricane. That turret makes all the difference. Solo, the Hurricane is going to be much less than it is even with a fixed or a remote turret. Yeah, I think situationally with 2 people working in tandem very well together, it does have a lot of potential. And that's one of the things that, you know, I've kind of dealt with a couple of times, is I think that this is also a ship that CIG is a little bit afraid about. And that's why I think that it's kind of, you know, a little weak in its execution right now. But it could be amazing. And it's definitely something I'm going to keep my eye on, but it's not something I'm going to buy. Right. Jason Taylor. I think it's a beat idea. Beat. I'm not sure if that's slang. Okay. I'm thinking that means it's a good idea. I'm not trying to make fun or make a joke or anything like that. It's just, if that's vernacular, I'm unfamiliar with it. The pilot can focus on flying while the gunner works on shooting. An example of this would be, think trench run on Star Wars Death Star. Pilot can fly around the hurdles, and the gunner can shoot focus points in the trench. Or pilots fly close to a capital ship and focus on avoiding fire while the gunner takes out capital ship turrets, shield generators, and so on. Since the Hurricane is a glass cannon and needs to avoid everything, I think that if they get the turrets down, it could make for very fun team play. Yeah, once again, I think that the idea of a paired ship isn't that bad of an idea. I mean, going back to, say, you know, one of the original concepts, one of the ideas that I put forward for the concept of the Buccaneer. And one sec, let me put up an image of that in the video here. One sec. All right, so back when the Buccaneer, before the Buccaneer was actually revealed as a concept, CIG was asking for opinions. What would you like to see in the Buccaneer? You know, submit your ideas. And what I submitted was this, which is, you know, this is my crappy photoshopping of I was about to call it an Apache, a Huey Cobra, in which I was arguing for a pilot to pilot, a gunner to do the weapons. You know, both guys facing forward, both aware of what the other one is doing, but both focused on their own jobs, working in tandem. I believe in this idea. I believe in this concept. The problem is then why put two guns into the hands of the pilot when if he's apparently so busy managing all the systems that is he really going to start shooting and like helping the turret gunner out? Or, you know, why not give all 6 guns to the turret operator? This was one of my original submissions for the Buccaneer, and then yeah, you know, the Buccaneer went a different direction somewhat, and you know, this is still something that I believe in. It was also when the Xeon Scout was originally submitted to the community as a 2-person ship. One of the write-ups on it put it as a pilot and a gunner, and you know, it originally had those 4 guns on the front, and I was very bullish about that too in the original days. That's when I bought my Xeon Scout. I was very bullish about that, and I was gonna actively recruit for someone to be my badass gunner for my ship, but then the Xeon Scout mysteriously lost a seat somewhere. I don't know. So yeah, I believe in the idea. It's just, in this case, I think the execution could have been better. It's something, once again, I will watch it as it develops, but I'm too cautious to spend money on that at this time. All right, next comment, Molexer. I just have to figure out how I'm going to get my girlfriend into this game and man my turret. I'd be careful with that, dude. What if she's better at the game than you, and all of a sudden she's like, bitch, you man my turret? I mean, yeah, at face value, it sounds like a good idea. Get your girlfriend into the game. That way you don't have to endure so many disappointed looks while you're playing for hours on end. But at the same time, you might end up being the backseat Betty in that ship. So careful what you wish for. All right, next. Are any usernames left? Once again, awesome name. One important thing about the glass cannon hammer question is that the answer stated that the armor would be in the range of the Mustang and the 300 series. Ugh, not the Hornet or even the Gladius. Oh, wow. That's yeah, one more reason to kind of be very careful with this one. Are graceful. Muddled and overcomplicated. That pretty much sums up a lot in the game lately. Yes. Yeah, that is a fair comment with certain things. Definitely, I wish there was a little bit more clarity in the way certain things are executed and are delivered. All right, Zen Air Zulu. Once again, if the ship is trash, it won't sell. All this may change. Citizen have the final say on ships by not getting it. Yeah, I mean, if this ship, if this ends up being a concept sale that really does kind of fall flat on its face, it might kind of cause CIG to kind of look at some of the criticisms out there and maybe kind of say, okay, maybe we're kind of going in a direction that the community isn't overly pleased with. And sometimes that's a good thing, because in a company like that, sometimes you get that sort of standard issue institutionalized thinking where everyone goes, okay, so this is how we do it, this is how we do it, okay. And every once in a while you need that little break, that little snap to kind of snap people out of it and go, well, whoa, there's a whole wide world out there of opinions, and maybe we are doing it wrong. This is kind of like when I make these videos and I talk to you guys. I love the feedback, because then that way I get to check and I get to bounce my ideas off of you guys, and then you guys give me feedback and I go, okay, so there's some things I might have to take into account. I don't ever want to build a wall around myself and just say it's my opinion and the world can be damned. That's not my way of doing it. I like to go out and steal everyone's ideas and try to make them better. Except, of course, how to handle audio and video. I just make that worse. All right, ravenous pathogen. Okay, I have been wanting a Terrapin, so I got the 2-pack, the Hurricane and the Terrapin, for the LTIs. I plan to keep the Terrapin and upgrade the Hurricane. Yeah, it's a solid plan. And one guy in the last video in the comments, he upgraded to a Redeemer, which I think is going to be a solid ship. I know it's a ship that some people don't like, but I think that that's going to be a very solid ship in the PU. So that's one thing to look at, definitely. Also, if you're buying ships, if you're buying this as an LTI token just to upgrade, if you're willing to wait, we know that there is going to be another space bike concept coming up soon, so there is probably going to be about another $35 LTI token that you're going to be able to snap up, hopefully in the near future. So something to definitely think about if you're looking, or if you're on the fence with some of these concept sales and you're wanting an LTI token. There is another space bike coming, so keep an open mind. You don't have to spend all that money just for the LTI token. But yeah, the Terrapin is definitely, I think, a ship that's going to be worth its weight in the PU. Hurricane, something that you can upgrade to a larger ship later. Yeah, that's a solid move, I think. All right, Marvey or Mr. Vey. I feel the same way about the ship. Thanks for the vid. Well, thanks for watching, dude. Seriously. DevilCon. The audio is bad. Sound likely unidirectional, and someone is swinging it around your head. It goes loud, quiet, loud, quiet, loud, quiet. Sort of sounds more like the software, really. It's the mic. It's basically, with that mic, I was trying to hold it. I'm using my headset today. Hopefully this comes out better. Fingers crossed, because now I'm realizing that this video is closing in on almost 40 minutes worth of audio recorded. And at this point, I don't want to have to record it again. So fingers crossed this works out better. Let me know in the comments. All right. Dread Head 88. Minion Man 480p. What the fuck? Yeah, dude. Sleep brain. I don't know. When I went to this video to read the comments, I saw 480p and I was like, what the fuck? And then I went and I looked and I said, there's got to be an HD version. Why isn't this upgrading? Why isn't this going up to 1080? And it wasn't there. And I went, oh my God, what was I, stoned when I made this? I don't know. And finally, Sir Swash, you worry too much about nose-mounted guns. I don't know. I think that, in all honesty, I think that if they put a fighter like that in game, like a proper fighter, not the Vanguard, but like a real fighter with all those nose-mounted guns in, I think especially with the HOTAS users in the community, I think that, there's a lot of people who kind of are maybe not really totally understanding what the benefit of that would be. But if they got to play around with something like that just for a little while, I think they would be like, oh no, whoa, this is it. This is right. This is perfect. Let's keep this. I think they would immediately notice a difference. It's something that rewards accuracy and pays dividends. And I think that, there's a reason why, post World War II, when propellers went the way of the dodo and everything went to jet engines prior to missiles becoming, the primary weapon that fighters used, when fighters were still carrying multiple guns. There's a reason why all those guns came to the center line. There's a reason why every nation on Earth did the same thing with their guns when they could do it, and without the added complexity of cams and whatnot to allow a gun to fire through the propeller of the older fighters, which some still did. But there's a reason why that happened. And it wasn't, it wasn't like a visual thing. There was very much a functional reason. And it's, I want to use the word correctly, but it's kind of like a force multiplier to a certain degree, because it means one hit could actually be 6 hits. And it's all focused in one area. So whatever piece of the ship that you hit, it's going to take very focused damage. So it results in a higher probability of a successful kill, versus dispersed firepower just kind of going everywhere. And I think that when we get to the point where we're actually playing in the PU, and there's an actual cost to losing your ship, and not just a time-wise, people are going to kind of come more in tune with what I'm trying to say about that, and it's going to come to the forefront. And it's something that should have been taken into account a lot earlier, especially when it comes to controller balancing. Okay, well, at over 42 minutes now long, it's probably the longest piracy show I've ever made. I hope you guys enjoyed it. God, I hope this audio came out. I tested it a little bit, but it seemed fine. But I guess now we're really going to find out. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.